What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson, and this is the 5th episode, Jessica Jones review. And very, very good episode. Not exactly what I was expecting. Um, I, ex- I did expect something to go wrong in their plan, but I didn't expect it to be. he hired a bunch of guys to protect him. Um, but yeah, that's basically what this episode is. They set a plan into motion. Jessica follows Malcolm a little bit after finding out that he's the one that's been taking pictures of her and delivering them to Kilgrave. Um, so she follows him, finds out what Kilgrave is doing, how the system works, all that stuff. And the cop, whose name once again escapes me, who is now sleeping with Trish. So that's convenient. But anyway, he's also very fast. Which Jessica mentions too. It's like, weren't you just like terrified he was gonna kill you, and weren't you just remorseful that you tried to kill her, and now you guys are anyway. But he decides he's gonna help. He has some military training, so he knows stuff, how to isolate a target, and he has a building that they can take him to, where they put him in a soundproof thing. And that way he can't speak his way out of anything. They decide they're going to get some dart guns filled with the medicine, and so the plan is in motion. And it doesn't. It sets up a little bit. There is a lot of setup in this, leading to the try to capture him scene. And so, mainly because it's the 5th episode of the season, I was like, okay, so this is not going to succeed. But then it did at first. And that's why I was really surprised. Like, when Kilgrave was sitting there with Malcolm, and then the cop guy is heading towards him with the dart gun, something happens, and Jessica thinks he's about to see him, so she calls over to him, distracts him, and then the cop guy is able to get close enough to shoot him with the dart. And then they get him into the back of the van and they drive him to the building. I'm like, so it worked? And then they get to the building and these guys pull up. It's a private, I guess a private contractor that he hired to protect him. But it is a bit interesting though, because I always pictured Kilgrave as one of those villains that you're about to sneak up on them, and then all of a sudden, like they see you, but they're not even looking right at you. They just kind of hold up something to signal to you, stay away. If you haven't watched Agents of Shield, you don't know what I'm talking about. But there was a scene where one of the bad guys, like, he was paranoid, he was looking at everybody, who's following me from S.H.I.E.L.D., who's trying to follow me. And he escapes from one, but another S.H.I.E.L.D. agent is still tracking him. And so you think that he has no idea, and then they end up in this train station, and you still think he doesn't know, like, how could anybody have tracked him this far? And then he comes out of the bathroom, and kind of like, without even looking at the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent that's following him, like, opens up his jacket to reveal that he has C4 strapped on him, and then holds up his hand and reveals a little, like, what is it, like a dead man switch. And it's just, so he knew the whole time. Malcolm doesn't seem like that, and I honestly thought he was going to be one of those villains that was just one step ahead the whole time. And yeah, hiring the people to protect him is a good precaution, but it's more of a precaution. It's not like he knew something bad was about to happen. It's like, just in case, Jessica does try to come and kidnap me, I have a plan in place. And that in itself shows it's a bit more realistic show. It's not so over the top. He's not one of these extremely. When the first time that Jessica saw him, he was shocked to see that she had followed the cop there. Like, he didn't expect that to happen. Um, and that's, I don't know. It makes him feel like more of a realistic villain, that he doesn't have every single contingency planned out, but he has enough to where his plan will succeed and he will not be captured for now. Um, but that just, I don't know, that makes him seem like a much more intimidating villain, that he's not, even when it seems like he doesn't have the plan, he still has enough of a plan in place to where he won't be stopped. And ultimately, I'm not sure, his goal right now seems to be mainly torturing Jessica, but I don't know if that's his whole plan or if that's just, it's something he gets enjoyment out of. Um, I don't know. It seems like he's a guy with this power that he can do anything he wants, or get anybody to do anything he wants. And so I don't know. Maybe it's one of those, he's so focused on her, but kind of like how with Ant-Man and with Daredevil and now with Jessica Jones, the villains in these movies and these two TV shows, they're not world domination, world destruction villains. One of the things I heard about Ant-Man the most was that it felt much more localized. Yes, his whole plan was eventually to become rich and supply a bunch of super weapons, blah blah blah. But Ant-Man's fight was to protect his daughter. That was his battle. It wasn't like if he didn't stop this guy, the world was going to explode. It was, if he didn't stop this guy, he might lose the only family he has left. And that's where sometimes Avengers can feel too massive, when every single movie is like, well, if this guy succeeds, he's going to take over the world. If this guy succeeds, he's going to take over the world. If this robot succeeds, the world is going to explode and die. Um, and so it just, I don't know, it feels too massive sometimes. And so it's nice to kind of take a step back into shows like Jessica Jones and Daredevil, where it's one sole villain who is not bent on world domination. And Daredevil, Kingpin he was mainly focused on just running crime. He wanted to be a big bad crime boss in New York, and that was it. Jessica Jones, this guy seems like he's a psychopath who's fixated on her and torturing her. It's not like he has world domination in mind. And I think Jerry Hogarth said that in the last episode, that all these powers, such a waste. And of course Jessica gets upset, saying, what, do you think he's on our side? Do you agree with him? Which mainly she was just saying, he has the ability to do all these amazing things, and he wastes. He's using them so just plainly. So that's something the show really has going for it, is that it's such a singular show that it doesn't have the burden of trying to compare to these grand movies, because it's not like them. It doesn't want to be compared to the world domination villains. It just wants to be its own little thing inside of New York, and it does a very good job of that. The whole Malcolm situation. You come to find out that he's not being controlled by Kilgrave. He was at first, at some points, but ultimately, what happened at first with Kilgrave led him into the drugs. And Kilgrave, all he does is just supply the drugs. So that was kind of interesting. You got to see when Jessica and Malcolm first met. And it also happened to be the time when Jessica and Kilgrave first met, because she saved Malcolm just as Kilgrave was walking up and seeing her fight off these two guys that were beating him near death. So that was an interesting, because weren't really sure how Malcolm ended up in the building and all of this stuff, and you kind of get a little bit of a glimpse here of stuff that happened in the past. But ultimately what happens is Kilgrave calls her and, kind of toys with her a bit, tries to figure out her motivation for keeping him alive when she could have just easily killed him. And he starts talking about Malcolm and how he didn't have to do anything. He was already on the path to drugs and destruction. And he kind of offers her a way out. He says, "Look, I'll stay away from him and let him make his own bad choices if you send the pictures. If you send one picture a day at 10 o'clock, same time frame for him, and it starts now." And at first she doesn't send the picture because obviously she doesn't want to. I mean, who would want to send pictures to this psychopath? But she goes downstairs. She had left Malcolm in his bathroom chained up and left him some drugs because they had kind of an argument. And she was trying to help him out, but he didn't want her to save him. He didn't feel like she needed to save him again. And so she just left him with the drugs. She said, "Fine, whatever." And she comes back, and the drugs are in the toilet, and he didn't use them. And that's when she finally realizes that he does need saving. Even if he doesn't necessarily want it, he does need to be helped. And so she sends him the first picture, which will probably become a running thing now. But yeah, a lot of stuff. I say this every single time, but there's a lot of stuff going on right now. A little bit less with Jerry and her lawyer firm, whatever. This was a bit more focused on Trish and the cop guy and Jessica Kilgrave, all that. So don't really know what's going on there. Luke didn't appear in this episode at all, so I don't know what's going on with him. But yeah, it was a really good episode. Really, it played with what it could do. Had a moment where it was like, the plan did work. Just kidding, it didn't. Which it did surprise me. So yeah, it's a really good show. I'm really getting into it, and I'll see what happens next, I guess. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you at the next review. Peace out.